You are not going crazy, but someone in your life may be working very hard to make you believe that you are. This is not a dramatic claim. It is one of the most documented and deliberately practiced forms of psychological manipulation that exists. It has a name, it has a mechanism, and once you understand exactly how it works, you will never be vulnerable to it again.
Gaslighting is not arguing. That is the first thing most people misunderstand about it. An argument challenges what you think. Gaslighting challenges whether you can trust the mind doing the thinking. The manipulator is not trying to win a debate. They are trying to replace your accurate perception of reality with a version they control. Slowly, consistently, until the replacement feels more real than what you actually experienced.
The mechanism follows 3 stages almost without exception. First, denial. The event you clearly remember is flatly denied. It never happened. You imagined it. Second, reframing. If denial fails, the event is reframed. It happened, but not the way you remember. Third, blame. If reframing fails, you are blamed for the event itself. Deny, reframe, blame. 3 stages, 1 goal. Your reality replaced with theirs.
The phrase you have almost certainly heard if this has been done to you is this: "That never happened," or "You are imagining things," or "You are too sensitive." Each of these phrases does the same thing. It takes your accurate memory of a real event and repositions it as a symptom of your instability. Said once, it is dismissal. Said consistently over months, it is the construction of a prison built entirely from your own self-doubt. Manipulators target clarity first because clarity is the primary defense against manipulation. A person who trusts their perception, who remembers accurately, who can clearly articulate what happened and when, is extremely difficult to control. So the first objective is always the same: destroy the clarity, create doubt, turn the victim's greatest asset, their accurate perception of reality, into something they are afraid to trust. Here is how the confusion is engineered. The manipulator strikes hardest in the moments when you are most certain, when your memory is clearest, when your perception is most accurate, because certainty is what they need to destroy. Repeat this pattern enough times, and something deeply damaging occurs. The victim begins to associate their own certainty with being wrong. Clarity becomes the trigger for self-doubt. That association is the entire point. One of the most effective tools in the manipulator's approach is the calm, rational tone. While you react, they remain still. While you express emotion, they speak reasonably. To any outside observer, you appear unstable, and they appear measured. This is not accidental. The emotional reaction they provoke in you, combined with their performed calm, creates a picture that makes you the problem every single time, in every room. Each individual incident of gaslighting can seem small: a misremembered detail, a dismissed concern, a reframed conversation. Taken alone, each one is easy to rationalize away. But zoom out. Look at the pattern across weeks and months. What you find is not a series of small misunderstandings. What you find is a systematic and deliberate dismantling of one person's ability to trust what they see, hear, and remember. There is a specific moment that almost every person who has experienced this describes with the same words. I raised something that was clearly wrong, and somehow by the end of the conversation, I was apologizing for bringing it up, for how I raised it, for making them feel bad about what they did to me. That reversal, where your legitimate concern becomes your fault, is not confusion. It is a technique, and it works because you are reasonable and they are not. Isolation amplifies everything. The manipulator who controls your social environment controls your access to reality checks. Without people outside the dynamic who can reflect your experience back to you accurately, the manipulator becomes your only mirror, and the reflection they show you is the one they designed. This is why isolation is almost always an early step, not a side effect, a deliberate prerequisite to everything that follows. There are 3 signs this is happening to you right now. First, you find yourself apologizing constantly without being able to explain exactly what you did wrong. Second, you have begun to doubt memories you were once completely certain of.
Third, you feel more confused and less certain of yourself after conversations with this specific person than before them. If all three are present, you are not going crazy. You are being made to feel that way, on purpose.
The most complete sign that the installation is finished is when the victim begins to pre-apologize, to explain themselves before any conflict has even started, to shrink their own certainty before it can be challenged. At this stage, the manipulator does not even need to be present. The doubt has been successfully transferred. It now lives inside the victim, running automatically, doing the manipulator's work for them without any further effort required. Your first line of protection is external memory. Write things down. Date them. Keep records of conversations and events with timestamps. This is not paranoia. It is the restoration of something the manipulator has been systematically attacking, your access to your own accurate history. When your memory is being targeted, an external record becomes the most powerful thing you own. It is reality that cannot be rewritten by someone else's version of events.
Find one person outside the circle, one person who has no relationship with the manipulator, no loyalty to their version of events, no investment in the narrative they have constructed. Describe what is happening to that person. Watch their reaction. Because what feels like confusion and self-doubt on the inside often looks completely clear from the outside. The outside perspective is not optional. It is essential. It is the reality check the manipulator worked to eliminate.
Ask yourself this question honestly. Do you feel more confused after conversations with this person than before them? Does clarity decrease in the presence? Does your certainty about your own experience shrink every time you engage with them? If the answer is yes, that pattern is not coincidence. Healthy relationships do not consistently produce confusion in one person. Consistent confusion is a product, and someone is producing it deliberately.
Trust your first perception before it gets reframed, before the calm, rational explanation arrives that makes you feel irrational for noticing what you noticed. Your first perception, before the manipulation has had time to operate, is almost always accurate. The reframe is what distorts it. The original read was correct. Training yourself to hold on to that first perception before the narrative arrives to replace it is one of the most powerful protective habits you can build.
There is one thing that disrupts gaslighting almost immediately: naming it out loud, calmly, specifically. This is called gaslighting. What you just did is called gaslighting. The entire mechanism depends on the victim never seeing it clearly enough to describe it. The moment you can name it, the dynamic shifts instantly. Not because naming it changes them, but because it changes what you are willing to accept as your reality going forward.
Your emotional reaction is their primary fuel. The confusion, the distress, the visible self-doubt, these confirm that the technique is working. They are the signal that the reality replacement is taking hold, which means the most disruptive thing you can do is deny them the reaction. Stay observational, stay cold, stay precise. A person who can watch a gaslighting attempt without reacting to it is a person the technique cannot reach, and that makes them impossible to control.
The real target was never the argument. The manipulator does not actually care about winning the specific disagreement. What they are building across every interaction is the erosion of your ability to trust yourself. That is the actual objective. A person who does not trust their own perception, who second-guesses every memory, who apologizes for noticing real things, is a person who can be controlled completely. You are never the problem. You were the project.
When you see this pattern clearly for the first time, something immediate happens. The confusion lifts, not gradually, quickly. Because confusion was never your natural state. It was an installed condition. The moment you have a name for what was done and a mechanism to explain how it was done, your original clarity begins to return. The fog was not yours. It was placed there. And understanding that removes it faster than anything else. Your perception is not the problem. Your perception was the target. There is an enormous difference between those two things. One means something is wrong with you. The other means something was done to you. The Dark Doctrine on manipulation is this: protect your perception like your life depends on it, because in certain situations, with certain people, it genuinely does. Your ability to see clearly is your most valuable and most threatened asset.
3 rules from the Dark Doctrine. First, write everything down.
create an external record the manipulator cannot rewrite. Second, find one person completely outside the circle and let them reflect your experience back to you accurately. Third, trust your first perception before the reframe arrives. It was almost certainly right. Right, find, trust. 3 rules. Applied consistently, they make you impossible to gaslight.
If something in this video matched something you have lived, you were not crazy. You were targeted. And now you can see it. Subscribe to the Dark Doctrine. New video every single day. Because every day there is something about human behavior that nobody warned you about. And now you will be ready for it.